Wednesday evening, Falmouth Conservation Commission hearing. It's a fairly short agenda. At this point, if anybody has any phones, pagers, whatever, please silence them. Because we don't have a records keeper right now, we're going to be putting the record after viewing the tapes. If anyone wants to make comment, please come up and at the podium, identify yourself for the record. We're going to nice and clear so that we get everybody's names correct for the record. First on this evening's agenda is minutes for February 25th.
I have nothing.
Nobody's seen them, so we're going to skip right past minutes. Okay, next is continued request for hearing under a notice of intent. And I'm going to read my spiel here. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. On the continued request, it's 54 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, the existing house, and construct a single-family 5-bedroom house with attached garage, decks to install a swimming pool with wood decking, pool fence, planters, native mitigation plantings, new Title V sewage disposal system, driveway, utilities, dry wells, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ament Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I'm here tonight with Jim Cappuccino from Hucker Architects. BSS Design could not be here, and Bob Ament could not make it as he welcomed not one but 2 grandchildren this week. So he's in DC right now and headed to Seattle shortly. We're here tonight to present the revised plan.
You have to speak slightly louder.
Just a little bit louder, Kevin.
We're here tonight to present the revised plan for 54 Cary Lane, based on revisions the board had requested at the last Conservation Commission hearing. What has been done is the fence has been moved outside of the mitigation area, and I do have that highlighted on my plan if you have trouble seeing it on your plan. I'd be happy to bring that over. And there is a cross-section of the pool and the fill beneath the deck. And I believe those are the 2 big areas of concern the board had. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Jen, do you have any concerns at this time?
Move to staff satisfaction.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the board or questions for the applicant?
Questions?
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, we have Russell's motion, Michael's second. So, any further discussion from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Have a nice night, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one. Enjoy the snow.
Yeah. Okay. Moving forward, next on the agenda is a continued request for hearing under a certificate of compliance. This is 179 Bay Shore Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. Request to permit the after-the-fact changes in the house, footprint, driveway, riprap, landscape, wall features, and other modifications under DEP 252921.
Mr. Chairman, the board doesn't always see these types of requests in cases where the applicant and the staff cannot grant compliance and the applicant will not, does not want to follow the staff's direction to bring the property into compliance. They always have the option to come and petition the board for a certificate of compliance. That is what has been done here. This property has had an order of conditions that was originally issued in 2003. You have a history in front of you of the property. I believe the first request for a certificate of compliance, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, was in 2011?
Yes.
Yeah, 2011. There were deficiencies outlined at that time. After that, additional unpermitted work was done on the property. construction of some, like Beckman-looking landscape features and a massive deck in the front of the house with a solid cinder block base, and the property is in the glossy zone. So staff absolutely could not issue compliance at this point. Okay, let's go right now.
Okay. Thank you. Would you like to discuss any of this before I?
Oh, yes, if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I requested the hearing.
Okay.
It's new to me as well. I've never been before you to discuss a compliance. We always seem to be able to work out the details with staff. This one's a little different. It has some history. It's an older application, and we just had to agree to disagree in this case and see if you can give us some direction or feedback so I can report back to my client. The client is Clive Gummow, and the property's at 179 Bay Shore, which is out in North Falmouth. I have on the board here an as-built plan that you should have in your files. I brought blow-ups of it just because it's a little easy to see. It's not new here, it's just copies of this blown up, so you can have them in front of you. I also I decided last minute to submit some aerial photos just of the neighborhood, just so you have a sense of where we are. So if I could pass these out. This is the same thing that's on the board.
Thank you. Got it.
And the aerial photo shows the house highlighted in a bold yellow, and the other houses in the lot lines for those houses are in a thinner yellow line. We have brand new aerial photos on the GIS, which is really nice to have in 2014.
Thank you. There we go.
So, just for history, the notice of intent for this project was applied for in October of 2003. And then in October of 2003, December of 2003, the Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions. And then there was a delay in the start of construction for various reasons, economic and otherwise. But work did finally commence after a couple of requests for extensions, and the work proceeded through, I think, the beginning of '08 and through 2009 and into 2010. And then ultimately, in January of 2011, we requested a COC. And then we got a deficiency letter in August of 2012, which is several months after we applied. And Mark and I were able to get together and meet on the site. We had 2 or 3 meetings on site to try to sort things out, both Mark and I, and then Mark, me, and the property owner. And then there was one subsequent meeting more recently with Jen, me, and the owner on site. So that all culminated with us trying to work our way through that deficiency letter that was issued by Mark in 2011. I think we chipped away at all of the items that were manageable, and we were left with 2 kind of significant items, which is the main reason I'm here tonight. So if you make reference to the plan I just handed you, the aerial photo, if you look at the aerial photo first, I guess, property's right at the intersection of Bay Shore and River Drive. It's on the inside, or the east side of Bay Shore, so the water body that it fronts on is Wild Harbor. On the other side, if you look at the aerial, you'll see house numbers 188, 182, and 176. Those houses are obviously existing, and they border on Buzzards Bay. The aerial photo also shows what's built today, because this is 2014, I believe. The plan I gave you, it has some shading on it. It has some red line work on it, and it has some yellow on it. So this is the as-built plan. It shows existing conditions in black and white and gray. Some of the existing conditions are gray shaded, and the reason the gray is shaded is that is the impervious surfaces in the buffer zone to the salt marsh. Because I was doing an analysis to review the project in accordance with today's regulations. The red line work includes the house that was permitted and the decks that were permitted, the driveway that was permitted. And if you look at that, you can see that the driveway was different. It came in and it went over like this. In fact, it was larger over here. This white area was approved. They didn't build driveway there. They built it where it's gray. They also built more driveway there in a place that wasn't approved that's in gray. But these two are almost a wash, what was approved and what was built. And if you look at the shape of the house and the decks and things, it looks very similar, except for the areas that I highlighted in yellow. So the areas that are highlighted in yellow represent things that were done that weren't approved when the order was issued back in 2003. But they were done subsequent when the house construction started without permission by the owner. And they are shown better on some photos that I'm giving you for the record, just so you can see what it is we're talking about. This house is a velocity zone house, which means it's elevated on pilings. It has breakaway panels. So the first floor is elevated significantly in the air. Because it's in a velocity zone, you have to do that. And at the time that the owner, who is also the general contractor who built the house for himself, started the construction, it became apparent to him that the way that the house was designed originally had a massive set of stairs that made way from the first floor in one continuous flight of stairs down to the ground. And he made a decision to try to alter that in a way that would improve the aesthetic. And what he did was break up the stairway so that you came down partway to a landing, which is the cinder blocks that you see, that would then would eventually be veneered with stone. And then the stairs switch back and you then walk down the rest of the way. Now you're walking towards the house. So it was an effort to sort of improve the aesthetics, disguise the stairs, and do what he thought was simply aesthetic improvements. And right, wrong, or indifferent, he thought that since it was on the other side of the house, away from the salt marsh, that it wasn't that big a deal. So this was discovered during the inspections. So that's shown and highlighted in yellow on the plan. And there's some other second-story deck areas, sort of like catwalks around the building that are also shown in yellow that were not on the original plan. So those are the main areas that are outside the footprint that was approved, and that if you were to apply today's regulations, you would require a 3-to-1 multiplier for. So we're here hoping that we can make a case that you can approve these after the fact. I believe if these were applied for in the original application, that you could have approved those. At the time, in 2003, the regulations were different, and the performance standard was basically not to move closer to the wetland resource. There wasn't the 3-to-1 multiplier and 2-to-1 multiplier that exists today. So, the actual construction occurred at a time, without permits granted, when those regulations weren't in effect. I think in hindsight, if he had pointed this out to us or someone, perhaps we could have come back for an amendment and been successful in getting you to approve it, if the reasons I just outlined to you were convincing. If they're not convincing, then I might as well bang my head against the wall, but I'm trying to make a case for how we got to where we are. So that's one issue. The second issue is related to the landscape walls that were built. And they're shown in the, I think at least one of them is shown on the photo. And you can see them on the aerial photo. Not very clearly, but you can see the shape of them and where they are in relation to the driveway. There happens to be a stonemason in the family that knows how to build stone walls. And they thought it would be a good idea to add these landscape features to the property. So they're not within 100 feet of a salt marsh. They are in a velocity zone. And what I'd like to say to you about those is that they are very similar to a seawall that you might have directly on the ocean, directly on Buzzards Bay, similar to seawalls that are already existing on Buzzards Bay across the street. They don't serve the purpose of erosion control. In my opinion, as an engineer, they pose no impact to the environment being there. In my opinion, in a velocity event, they're sufficiently protected and beyond significant other structures between Buzzards Bay and the stonework that there would be no issues related to velocity zone matters. There's 3 houses between us. There's stone jetties on the beach on Buzzards Bay. There's stone ripraps on the western side of those houses that are across the street from our house. So we're hopeful that you can allow those to remain. And we were hoping that there was a way we could work out something where the alterations to the house could remain with some form of mitigation in the way of native plantings. The situation exists. I'm just here to report to you how it happened, what exists, and hope that there's something we can do to solve it that's workable. I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Mike, what's the square foot difference in impervious surface? between what was approved and what is there today?
It's on the...
It is.
495.
Got it, okay, got it. And, the house had started construction before you said the rate change?
Yeah, I don't know how much of it did. I looked in my files and I see a certified plot plan for the footings.
Yeah, this is an aerial from 2009, so it was
Okay.
after the rate change. You can see the house, but that big structure that he added wasn't added until after that.
Right,
that
the
rate change.
project started and it was,
Okay.
and the order was issued
Okay.
prior to the reg changes.
Does he have the space on the property for the 1485?
We looked at a couple different variations on that. If we were to do some mitigation planting, we would probably come back to you with a proposal to reduce the driveway surface a little
Okay.
bit, and then also do mitigation planting. Some of the mitigation planting, we can fit it if we had to. Some of it may
With
be less.
maintaining that 10-foot,
Some places it would only be 5.
okay.
But
Because the regs say you have to maintain 10 feet from the house, just so people can access the structure and everything.
right.
That's
Does it
one
say
of
it
the-
actually in words, or is that a
Yes.
policy? I don't remember.
It says it more. If you give me 1 second, I'll find it.
No, I believe you, I don't
Yeah.
remember reading it, that's all.
Sorry, could you repeat what it is you were just,
Mitigation plantings are not considered mitigation plantings if they're within 10 feet of the house, and that allows people to access the
Right,
structures. You've seen multiple, and that was one of the reg changes in 2008, because we had seen, I think a few from you, Mike, with mitigation plantings pushed right up to the house, and that's just not, it's unrealistic.
Right, so what I was trying to allude to was, because of the increases in impervious surface in the A zone to the salt marsh in the 3-to-1 multiplier, if we did some manipulations to the driveway where we maybe reduced that, and then that overall number that you apply the 3-to-1 factor to would get reduced, we have opportunities over here and some opportunities over here. Actually, and a little bit of an opportunity over here. The problem is, I'd have to look at it more closely, but I was going to propose to put some mitigation on this side and leave a 5-foot band instead of a 10-foot on that side. And I thought, since we're trying to work this out, that might be a viable solution.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Who wants to step into it first?
I'll start with a couple things, I'm not sure. I may have more later.
I think we're all going to have more as we go
Yeah.
along.
You described the work as beginning in early 2008 and going until 2010, late 2010. So things have been the way they are now since 2010? Is that-
Yes.
Okay. And when you first requested compliance in January 2011, our records indicate that some required things were not submitted at the time, like the as-built and some dry well details and stuff like that. Were there any other problems other than outstanding documentation at that time?
There are a couple of things I can point out. There was, originally the deficiency letters said there wasn't dry well photos. We submitted those. There was a question about whether the lawn was sod or not. We submitted evidence to prove that it was not sod. There had been such a long time from when the mitigation planting had been installed till compliance, because it was a requirement to plant that before construction could start, I believe, that he planted that, and then it wasn't maintained, and invasive vines started to choke it out. So we worked that out with Mark. The invasive vines were removed, and the buffer plants, for the most part, surprisingly recovered. So I think a series of more minor deficiencies were dealt with like that, and they were, the documentation was submitted.
Mike,
And,
if I can interrupt, I'm just going to clarify something
Sure.
for Mary. That original email that was sent to Mike regarding the deficiencies was just an administrative review of the file. So when Teresa sent Mike the email regarding the dry wells and the as-built, I was having the administrative assistant do kind of a cursory review of what documents were all submitted, just to see if the application or request was complete before Mark started running out into the field.
Gotcha.
We were very backed up at that time.
Okay.
So some of the items, it was impossible for the admin to know what was going on the site.
there was a formal letter, though, after that.
Yeah, after that.
And that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. And I continue if you want to say more.
No, I didn't want to say more. I was just trying to, summarize the other deficiencies that we could more easily deal with, that we dealt with as soon as possible, and I think we did satisfy everything but the two matters that I've just addressed tonight.
Okay. Just for the record, the planting was to be done immediately after construction.
Oh,
But
well,
that's...
it was done.
Yeah.
And it was done early
It's not
on.
really germane to how it worked out.
Sure.
At this time, this first request for compliance, did you also have discussion about how what was built was not what was permitted? You
I
did.
had a conversation, but when I submitted my request for compliance, I worded it in a way that I said it was substantially in compliance, and then I knew there was going to be discussion, and sure enough, right away there was.
Okay, I think for now, I'm just going to ask one more thing, which is about the fact that your permit is expired, and I was wondering if you considered filing for another extension before
Well-
that happened.
Well,
Why it didn't happen.
let me ask, I can answer that. I don't know if you're aware that there was some legislation called the Permit Extension Act. And I think at this point, the permit has expired.
It
But there were-
expired this past December.
Yes, but no work has been done, and we knew we were going to eventually be meeting with you, so we're faced with this matter of getting direction from you, whether it be an enforcement order to take certain actions, whether it be instructions to file a new notice to take those actions. So everything's been put on hold since we discovered that this was a significant problem, and now we're waiting.
Okay. Is it,
Staff's recommendation at this point, as I said, we can't recommend issuing a certificate of compliance until these deficiencies are removed.
well, what I was going to ask is, can anything, could they even undertake modifications at our direction without a new NOI? They couldn't, right? They don't have a permit in force.
No, I mean, if it was removal of the structures and everything, then he could probably do it under an enforcement order.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mike, did I hear you correctly? The owner was also the general contractor, and he had
Correct.
no idea those decks were being built?
No, he knew they were being built.
Oh, okay.
But what he didn't,
I thought you said that,
what he didn't really, his opinion at the time was, he didn't think it was something that was significant enough to come back to the Conservation Commission because it was on the landward side of the house away from the wetland resources. And he had approval for a full stairway down there that was like one straight flight of stairs. So he thought that it was in effect, a stairway was approved, so he was going to modify the stairway to make it look more aesthetically pleasing and changed it without getting any consultation.
okay, and then I noticed that the house was shifted over by about 2.4 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I didn't point that out. That's
Yeah.
one silver lining. They didn't build the house as close to the wetland.
And the side setbacks, everything, huh? Just moved it,
They
looks
just-
like it moved a little bit forward and a little bit to the left.
Yeah, so it got further away from the salt marsh, and you know, slightly closer, but still meets the 10-foot setback.
You know, I really had trouble with this one, because I'm a firm believer in, you know, give and take, you know, if we work together, you know, people can get these projects done. But to me, after reading the timeline, and it's almost a blatant disregard for the original orders. That's what I'm having problems with. You know, just totally disregard the requests that were made. It would go on and on and on before anything would happen. I mean, even the as-built plan, right? Am I correct that the original as-built, this is the first as-built they got?
This is the first as-built.
Correct.
Well, I mean,
You know, five years later?
well, it's really, I don't know if you're characterizing it properly, I'm not disagreeing, but what you have to do, you have to understand that there was an approval given in '03, some time went by, but then the project started and then it stopped, because if you remember, we were in some significant
remember very
economic
well.
downturn.
Yeah, but it's still under the order. It was a special
Right,
condition.
but I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to characterize this. So being a general contractor, he was in a position where he could stop the project like weather tight and then think about going back to it. And that's what he did. And then so there was some gaps in the construction. I think you can appreciate that. If you're building a house, you're a general contractor for yourself. There's not a deadline for a completion except your own. So there was some starts and stops. That's not an excuse. I'm just trying to give you the timeline. So it wasn't like a disregard.
If I don't mean to interrupt, but I gotta take exception to this. This is not the only project in the last 10 years that this gentleman has done. It's not the only time that a project he has been involved with has had to come in front of this commission. I am under the, and I can truly appreciate hardships, stopping, phasing in, all that. That's what happened, and that's what the extensions were and all that. The lack of communication, the lack of continuity of truly putting a good faith effort forward to include this, because this is not the only thing that he's done in this town. Okay? It's not the only time that he went down to the building department. It's not the only thing that he didn't know. You know, regulations changed from, on all these other projects that he had his hands in, right? And not just conservation stuff, electrical codes, plumbing codes, insulation codes, all these things. It's a fluid business that we're in. We're constantly updating ourselves. And to be having contact from staff, documented contact from staff, that these are issues, and then turn a cold shoulder for whatever reason, right? That was a choice. I wrote it down. He made the choice. Those were your words when you started your presentation, okay? He didn't seek an amendment. He knows what an amendment is, okay?
But even a courtesy call, you know?
And I have a couple other things that will cross, but I'm gonna give this due time,
Okay.
because it is what it is. We're gonna, Mike, if you want to step up on anything right now, or I can continue on my questions.
Let me, I'm still,
Okay.
I'm still a little lost, Mike, so.
Can I just
Okay.
make one comment about what you said, Mr. Chairman?
Please, hold on.
I'm not going to get argumentative at all. I just want to, you used the term that he turned a cold shoulder, and, you know, that's a perception, but I can tell you that a lot of it wasn't really a cold shoulder. What it was he knew there was something he had to deal with, and he really didn't know how to deal with it. And you know how that can be. You like agonize over it and try to figure out. There was no way he was going to not avoid having to deal with it. He just didn't. He was trying to figure out how to deal with it.
When I say, I'm trying to be as nice as I can about it. If a cold shoulder is offensive, I'm sorry.
No, it's not offensive. I just
Right,
want to make sure
I
you
just-
didn't think he was just thinking he
And
could
I
get
think,
away with it.
because there is a history of limited contact and response. There is. It's limited. It is not a commanding gesture that has been put forth. Okay? Did you want to?
Yeah, just, Mike, that middle thing's, is that a propane tank we're seeing in there?
Where are we looking?
Wall out by the road?
Is there a propane tank?
No.
in-
No, I don't.
Really?
Really? I need to see that. 'Cause I never
Hang on. Sure looks like a cover to me. I mean, it would,
One of these photos had it.
I mean, that's almost in the road
Can you
layout.
show me? 'Cause I-
Yeah, that's what
hang
we're
on,
looking for.
Of course, I won't be able to find it real quick now. I mean, he must have, here we go.
I wouldn't know what that is, to be honest with you. If you probably know better than I do, is that what it is?
It appears to be.
That was, yeah.
It appears to be a cover for a, I mean,
know.
that's an issue in itself, not with us,
It's in the velocity zone.
and it's too close to the road, you know, it's,
Mike, what we're, I have a photograph that I believe is March of '05. What's puzzling to me is that that building configuration doesn't match what's that built here.
Right, because in '05, that was the original house. A permit that was issued in '03 granted permission to demolish that
Okay.
and build a new house.
Ah,
But construction didn't really start on the new house
That's
till
fine.
like late
I'm-
'07 or early '08.
Yeah, your
now I'm-
as-built, you're
yeah,
looking
all right,
at
I'm
what was
fine. I'm
approved
better.
and what's on the ground, not
I'm
what
not
was
sure I'm in the
originally
light,
there.
but somebody turned the switch on. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Next one, what, top of wave is where? What elevation are we?
17.
Your first floor's at 21, so would it have to be 2 feet above that, so
No.
19?
Yeah, no, but what is the? what is the-
17.
17?
On,
I thought your
but,
top of, I thought your first floor elevation was 21.
It is.
right, but the velocity zone is elevation 17.
It's 17.
That's what you asked, I believe.
Yeah, it's on the
So
plan.
this
And-
thing
and
is
that's-
picked
and that's-
up even higher.
And that's,
than
by
me.
the way, the
New.
the July 2014, and the house was built at a time when it was different. He's in a way lucky that he built it that high, because it went higher. So he meets it even with the
Yeah,
new
you got a nice view. I can appreciate. Do we have any idea of what the land surface is directly across the street at, say, 188 or 182?
182 has a paved circular drive. It's asphalt. 188 has a lawn and a shell
Do we
driveway.
know what the ground surface is? And where
For
I'm coming
elevation?
from, what I'm coming from is the wave going to impact the front of his house? Is it going to come across that between the houses and come in? Or is that landform high enough that the wave won't come across?
The landform elevations on those houses, I would say, is within probably a foot plus or minus of the land elevation on my client's property. It's very flat, from their front yards across the street to his front yard. It's probably within a foot. So
So it's at elevation 10, 11.
it's probably 11.
It's elevation 11.
Yep.
So we have this wave that's coming across in this structure rebuilt for the landing of the stock is now some form of a seawall, I guess? And does it impact the construction of the house? See where I'm coming from? You
No.
now have this thing that's going, the wave's coming across the street, it's come across the land, it hits the foot of the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And does that change the velocity so that his house now sees more?
In my
Wave?
opinion, no, because he built it as a semicircle, so.
Yeah,
no-
kind of like a bow of a ship here.
Right, so it's going to displace the waves. It's not a vertical face that the wave would come in straight, direct impact with.
Plus, it's got the other three right here.
Yeah, well, the next one is, we got stone walls in the street. So that, I don't think it's in our problem, but I think he has a problem, huh?
it's in the road layout.
It's in the road, huh?
Right, but he has a interest to the center line, and you can do improvements as long as you don't impact people's ability to pass and repass, and the paved surface is not, obviously, He didn't build them in the street per se. He built them in the shoulder, which is his, in effect, his area. He has a
Okay.
fee interest to the center line of the road.
And before the new house was built, we see some kind of tree in front of the house that is long since gone. This guy. Was that tree part of was there permission to get that tree?
I don't remember that, to be honest with you. And that wasn't brought up during compliance. I just don't remember.
This is in the 05. March of 05, showing. So there was the permitted driveway had one entrance.
Correct.
The existing driveway has
2.
two.
Right, but it's more than 100 feet from the salt marsh.
But it's,
Still in the
it's,
Wassey zone.
but it's something that, again, would have been,
Yeah, absolutely.
it would have been discussed.
Yes, no
minimally.
question.
And the structures are really substantial, as decorative as they are and functional. You need to know what's in that middle.
I have a question,
island.
Mike, would he have needed a driveway permit from engineering to make a second entrance?
Probably not, because these are private roads.
Okay,
I should say no if they're private roads.
okay.
Well, these are substantially different than what was permitted. And
Correct.
this is something that the board has to,
Determine if you can actually grant compliance on this project the way it is. Instruct the applicant to file a new notice to mitigate for the expansion, which Mike has already proactively calculated at 1485. They would have to, as Mike said, remove some of the driveway, or not accept the changes. They're substantial, and required the removal through an enforcement order
I
to
think
bring the
that,
property into compliance.
I think that myself, some of the landscape features wouldn't be it'd be a whole lot more palatable if just even the house structure and that larger substantial change on the front entrance of the house. And that is, it wasn't just like building a different set of stairs, it's building a really big.
That has an issue because it has the solid concrete cinder
And-
block
Yeah.
walls around it, which you really don't allow in a velocity
Yeah.
zone.
They're
That
not
type-
breakaway.
No, they're not breakaway
No.
panels, that's a cinder block base to that structure.
Yeah. And so I for one am not in favor of issuing a compliance, it's just the next step from here is what I'm grappling with. What direction the board will go on how to resolve all this.
Well,
One-
you know the staff's recommendation.
Yes, yep, thank you. One, I really think we gotta investigate a little bit on that center island, if that's a propane tank, that's gonna be, and that's from the edge of the road.
Staff's concern is that if you were to, the mitigation that would be required is just gonna be smushed in to the property. That house is so large and that property is so small, at least the buildable area that, you'd be taking out all the lawns, so you're gonna be having mitigation plantings behind these stone walls. It's not a functioning buffer at all.
But your regs do say, and please try to remember, I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm trying to point out what the regs were at the time and what they are today. The house, at the time that was approved, is, on the wetland side at least, is basically the same. You know, it's actually slightly further away. So it's impossible even, you know, it would be impossible to give the proper mitigation there. Your regulations today, if you're going to apply them, say if the A zone, if there's no room in the A zone, you can put them in the B zone. It says that. I'm not disagreeing that it's not doing what your goal is to thicken natural buffers along resources, but you have a lot of cases where there's existing houses in the A zone and people have come to you for additions and they can't put the new mitigation in the A, so they put it in the B. So I think if you're going to apply the new today's regs, you should apply them in their entirety. I don't think I'm going to win the argument that you should be going by the regs that were in place at the time, but.
I don't even think we should further
So-
the argument, Mike.
So if you're going to think about today's regs, that is in today's regs.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I share your distress at the fact that this went forward, done by a general contractor who really ought, he's a general contractor in Massachusetts and in Falmouth, he really ought to have known that he should be talking to us, or really should have filed a request for amended permit. And given the consequences of the changes he made, had he filed for an amended permit, I, for one, would not have voted to approve it. So that's the way I'm viewing the situation right now. I'm not sure, I mean, you know, the idea of having somebody undo tons of expensive work doesn't fill me with any kind of delight, but I find this to be a case where I'm seriously considering it.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just
Please.
for procedure, I don't expect you to give me direction tonight, even though you are giving me some direction. In fact, I prefer that you not, I prefer that you,
Here. You need direction, Mike. We have to resolve this. I'm not going another 6 years with this.
no, I know, but I think you need to contemplate everything and maybe come up, like you deliberate on an order of conditions unless you don't think.
I can put some things, I'm going to speak for the board, and please interrupt me if I'm speaking out of turn. The front entry is a no. That's over 20 feet of more substantial structure, just from what was approved to what it is for a stair, okay? Without the veneer and all that. No, that's going to change. I'm sorry. That hurdle is going to have to get crossed, you know? You were saying that he has the right to come out into the road layout on a private road?
That's my opinion, yeah.
Okay, I may have to ask
Engineering?
engineering
Yep.
if that's something that's, because we never even had a chance to give approval on that. We didn't get a chance to review any of this, and that's unfortunate, because productive discussion might have happened, and it would have saved your client time and money and stress. And I can appreciate his stress, because I'm stressed. You know, I'm a volunteer on this board, that I do this year in and year out. You know, and it distresses me to have to think that, and I'm trying to be as polite as possible with this, because it warrants being polite, all right? That the dropped ball, and see, what I can't get hurdled over is that this is not the only project that this contractor has done. If it was the one and only, I'd have a whole different attitude about it. If it was his house, he was here from Western Mass, and this was his retirement home, and that's how it all worked out. But I know what standing he has in the community. in all that he does. And there's very many positives. Unfortunately, we're looking at some negatives right now. And it's hard to take a negative when you don't want to, I'm affording this far too much time because I think it's necessary, all right? I don't want to cut this process short because of all that's been invested in this, both by staff and yourself, the client. I want them to understand we are going to have there is going to be a resolution to this, and one of it is that front stair. It just is over the top to think that could have been something palatable. When all these other alterations were done, there has to be, I want to find out about that propane tank. And the mechanism for doing this, I think is going to be an enforcement order.
Okay. We can issue an enforcement order to remove the front stairway.
I'm really leaning towards the original order of conditions, to be honest with you. I agree with Mary, I don't want to cost the guy money, but this is just, a couple of little mistakes here and there, Mike, you can understand, that stuff happens, But this really, to me, is kind of blatant, that's what I'm having problems with, and
So we're gonna remove the front stair, how about the driveway configuration?
the original conditions.
All right. And then,
And this is our suggestion on this, right? So if the applicant comes back with a substantially changed structure that isn't 110% like we're going to the original conditions, but it's made up, we will entertain that. Is that off the shelf as well? Are we just?
no, look at me,
Yeah,
it's up to you guys.
I mean, I'd be amenable to that, to looking at something else.
I mean,
Right.
because you've got the decks
But,
in the
I
front
mean, there's
too
gotta
that
be
work.
substantial changes, not just, a little eyewash here and there, because again,
You have the decks in the
if you
front.
can go back to
Right.
the original,
Wait.
Mike, and maybe work from that,
You mean on the back of the
from
house?
the
No, I'm
original
working
conditions
from-
forward.
All this here?
If you look at the black,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
says deck,
Right.
they are not permitted. So you want those removed as well.
Well,
Yeah.
if I could.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, what she's alluding to are second-story cantilever decks up at elevation 21.
And I'm glad you made mention of that. So
21 4 yeah.
I don't care
Mike.
what elevation they're at.
But what I'm saying is they're not on the ground, they're not,
I'm just going with what they said they want
yeah,
original
but I don't think
conditions.
I think that
Oh, I see what
you're
you're saying.
saying it in a way, like in a general way, and there might be a little bit of,
Mike, I could,
please.
there's two issues that bump into each other for me. The first is, we have all these applicants come before us with doing their best to build what they would enjoy and meet our regulations. And we do our best to accommodate them. And if anybody can go out and do exactly what they want, and then come back and say it is okay, why are we here? You're asking me, I'm sitting here, and there's the side of me, there's the bad Mike, who thinks that, somebody should be punished. But I'm of the mind that it's there, the house is there, it's going to be used, and to be truthful, it's a beautiful house. But you can accommodate and come back. So I think you've got to somehow resolve with me. I'm not asking that go back to, I don't even know how you do it. You take a look at it, you have decks off back. I don't understand. But something has to be done to come to as close to the regulations and as protective of the resources as we can be. And that's where I guess I'm back to now is we got to do something that is clearly more protective than what we have here. And it's just me speaking, and I can't speak for the others. But that's where I'm at.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond to that. I'm not here to defend anything other than to explain the situation and what happened, and hopefully get some consideration that some of the things that were done aren't impacting wetland resources. If I had to make a list of like the 10 things I would rather not do tonight, this is probably on that list. So,
Guys, how about
this
this?
isn't something that I'm like having fun doing. I'm trying to report to you.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
trying to like resolve it as best I can.
And we've
but
been
I-
talking about it for 45 minutes.
And we're not
so-
trying to shoot the messenger either, Mike.
Right.
so,
Thank you.
know.
We'll issue an enforcement order to remove this front structure, remove the stone walls, including the sneaky little propane tank that may or may not be in there. And Mike, after you do that, if those decks have to stay because of the way the house is constructed, I want a square footage analysis of the difference, and if there's an increase, you're gonna do a 3-to-1 mitigation for it. So you may want to talk to Mr. Gama about losing some of his driveway.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'd like to do is just, I'm listening, I'm not gonna do anything until I see the enforcement order, and then we're gonna have to like react to the enforcement order and see how we
On
resolve
the
this.
propane tank, Joe, we need to consult the fire department on that.
Mr. Gama has to consult the fire
Correct.
department on the propane tank.
Because they can be installed, provided they're bolted down and there's a monolithic pad installed. But
Okay,
I think the issue might be the setback on it.
yeah.
So,
How does that sound, guys?
That sounds like a beginning.
At a beginning, so we'll do that. Staff will, Mark's gone for a week.
So I have a motion to,
Not issue compliance, and issue instead an enforcement order with the removal of the front structure. And we all know what I'm talking about, the circular half-moon
stairwell.
stairwell, remove the stone walls, mitigate at a 3-to-1 for any increase in square footage resulting from those decks, Mike? Is it in the front? Because when Russ said the decks in the original, you pointed out those are cantilevered and you might not be able to actually remove them?
Yeah, it's this, because the roof line is on
Yeah,
the,
yeah, I think.
Or they could be mitigated for, I think.
Well, actually, they probably could be removed, but,
no, it's, no, no.
yeah.
It's,
I see what those are, and then, the increase in driveway. So how about that?
I'm just gonna listen and
And report back, and don't shoot the messenger on the other end either.
I never shoot messages,
Yeah.
messengers. I just listen to the information and try to work with this.
No, I'm saying,
right, so-
you will get shot.
with all this discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
so move, Jennifer. Jennifer's just stated.
Okay, we have
Second.
Russell's motion, Mike's second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, and one thing, just make sure the plantings are maintained.
That it, yes,
Yeah,
that'd have to
that's-
be one of the conditions. All right,
Thanks, Mike.
seeing no other discussion,
We're not mad at you, Mike, so.
I'm not mad at anybody, and I want, before I call for the vote,
Frustrating.
true, and if there was, I truly hope there's no offense given to anyone. And we are gonna have a resolution, that's the whole point of this. So, with that, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Next is to vote orders of condition. Ottawa Lane?
Yep, that was the amended to change the house footprint, modify the plantings. I don't think there's any real special conditions unless you want to make a special condition that they work with the neighbor about there was that one issue with the neighbor and the shades with.
I think
I don't
that's,
see a problem.
that's
Yeah,
something,
well,
That's out of
actually, I
our
think there were
purview.
2 issues
Yeah.
for the neighbor, but
yeah, that's,
I mean,
I'm
I think-
inclined to leave them both alone.
I don't think there should be an
So
hour.
basically, just amend the footprint and the plantings and all the original conditions will remain. I don't think there's the addition to, other than the beech tree, will have that beech tree protected again, because I think they did shift the pool patio out to protect that.
yes.
How's that sound?
Okay, I have to make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second?
That'd be Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any further discussion? So none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention?
Aye.
Unanimous, so moved. Next is 17 Hawks Way.
That was that little parcel that, hang on a second.
Got the deep snow.
Yes, but that's the one you need to make the findings on the coastal bank.
Correct.
Tim Santos did submit a new plan showing the fence and the 50-foot setback under trees on the plan, so the technical issues that staff had pointed out were deficient have been resolved. The board just needs to determine whether or not you agree with the argument that that coastal bank, because the flood zone had changed, they actually should have given you the old flood zone and new flood zone maps, because you can see where the flood zone came and grabbed that vernal pool when they did the model. So that landform became a coastal bank according to your regulations in July. I think the board,
Who the claim for the pool, is it the model or the?
I don't know.
You know,
I have no idea. So if the board does want to approve the project, I will make the appropriate findings. And they provided some findings that staff agrees with regarding the significance of the coastal bank.
Did you say that they added the coastal bank to the plan?
Correct. Well,
Okay.
they have the coastal bank on the plan. I wanted to see the 50-foot
That's-
setback.
Right, that's what, I'm sorry, I meant the 50. And so they did that?
I believe so. Tim
Okay,
submitted
I
a
don't
new
have
plan.
the up to.
Yep,
Yes, he did.
yep. Tim submitted a new plan.
Okay, and I also have a note that we had asked them to change the notation for the limit of work.
Oh, let me
Yeah,
see.
yeah, to make it a little clearer. Yeah.
I think he missed that, but it still looks the same. But he did add the 50-foot.
And that's because it runs on the,
All parallel below,
It
but
just
contour
overlaps,
lines.
yeah, everything overlaps.
Yeah, coastal bank, everything.
I get a very light 50-foot setback. I've got the trees and that, yeah. So,
So if that's satisfied, and we're gonna have in the findings the,
split rail fence along the, the findings regarding significance
and,
the coastal bank.
correct,
And then for special conditions, the staff just, and I will reiterate it in the special conditions, just we want to see a single rail fence delineating that 100-foot setback from the vernal pool, because it is a vernal pool.
And you're satisfied with the way, the delineation of the limit of work from the plans you were just looking at, or should
It's
we
the
get?
same
It's the
delineation.
same,
It's the same,
It's the
same,
Same
it's
thing.
just he was gonna try to get a different,
a little bit,
I think
because
we
it
should
is
work on
flooded,
that.
that's a tough spot.
Yeah,
but that's because of all the other poo-poo.
I don't know, maybe he could just submit a copy with some color on it for
That's
that.
fine.
Just for that.
Okay.
Attached to the order of conditions when,
Yep.
and the permit on the job site.
Yeah.
And make sure the permit's on the job site.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second?
That'd be Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 62 Penzance. The dock.
This is just the rebuild of
rebuild.
that dock.
Rebuild of the dock.
Yeah, I don't remember anything outstanding on this.
It is
Oh, the
now.
mooring number.
Oh, yeah, we want the mooring number of the
the
float
floats.
storage.
Yeah, where they're gonna keep it.
They
Note
haven't
number,
given me that yet.
note number 8.
It's It's just a rebuild of what's there. It is different than the Chapter 91 configuration, but it's been there since the 1800s.
But it's also narrow, right?
Yep.
Yes.
If I'm not
And then the
mistaken, so
original
that's-
Chapter 91
Yeah.
configuration, it's not going to be narrower than it is out there now.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
understand that, but the original license had it wider,
Oh, yeah.
so, I mean, that's kind of a plus.
And everybody's comfortable with the plan for the float? I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it.
What do you mean?
Out in the
float?
mooring,
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with it.
you don't?
It's,
Although if we have another year like this, it could get wrecked out there.
Yeah, I mean, boats get brought in.
Exactly.
oh,
You want upland winter storage, I put it in a special condition, you
what
still let
size
me
is
know.
that? What size is the?
Well, that's a new dock requirement.
Oh, sorry.
Upland winter storage?
Hold
Well,
on, hold on.
I don't know. I'm willing to defer to the others on that,
So
but
that's sound.
that's my inclination.
Yeah.
That could be a,
For me, it meets, so it's okay, but it's an odd structure in that during that event, the whole thing's underwater. At some point, you're gonna have waves crashing over the rails. Is this because, maybe when it's under, it's okay, and when it's under, but it meets, and there it sits. We certainly wouldn't permit it today, but
Yeah,
there
doesn't
it
say
is.
how wide that is, or square footage.
worry,
of
it
it.
would bother me if it was my structure,
Yeah.
but it's not.
scale is,
'Cause it shows it here, but it gives no measurements. You mean high water.
What are you looking for, Russ?
I'm
The
just trying to
square
measure
footage of
this.
that flow, how big it is. I mean, if it's really, really big, and
What's
That's
down here?
big.
Yeah, that might
Inches
be the
20.
real thing. I think we might talk
It's
about.
like 120 square feet. Well,
25 feet.
maybe it's 80. I mean, that's like 1 inch by 2 inch, so that's about 80 square feet.
25 by 60.
The float is 15,
Like 24?
if this is a 20 scale,
Yeah,
15 by almost 30.
That's why they keep it out there.
that's why, yeah.
If this is a 20, let me double check the scale on this.
it's
but-
20.
Yeah, 15 by, unless I momentarily forgot how to use a scale, that's a 29, looks like 29-foot float. That float, 29 by 15, yeah. So 30, make it easy.
So that's 435 square feet. That's huge.
That's why they keep it over there.
Um,
So what do you want to do?
Where have they been?
Great
It's a
Harbor.
mooring in Great Harbor.
I'm gonna,
Big time
Probably
velocity
can't do
zone.
better.
Upland storage.
Has the harbor master said anything about this?
No, but I don't know if the harbor master knows they're keeping it on
Right.
somebody else's mooring in Great Harbor.
Right,
There's a number of floats there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, but, I mean, the point I was making, people bring their boats in,
Well, can we,
but I don't know about this.
So
can we
upland
get
storage,
with
guys.
approval of the harbor master?
The point is, it's not whether it gets approval of the harbor master. Do you guys have any concerns with that structure
My
being
only-
out
my
there
only
during the
concern-
storm event in the wintertime?
my only concern about that is that they might have to reconfigure the construction of the float.
If the float's damaged?
No, to
Get
make
it
it.
out.
to
Make it movable.
Make it movable. It's, what it's designed at right now is to be moored. That's why it is the size that it is. If you go to transport that, that's over width by a substantial amount. And I don't know if you have, it would be reconstructing the floats, not that you can't, but
You'd almost have to split it in half and make 2 floats.
2 floats, connect them
Yeah.
and without having any more piles. You'd have to do, it's a long way.
They
That's
can high and
what
lock
they do
both
with it
those.
now.
What's that?
They can
What they do
high,
with it now.
they can high those anyway,
Yeah, I'm just,
you know what I mean?
if you're,
If they cut that in half, I mean, give them the same
right,
435 square inches,
but
but,
you'd want to, well,
Right.
here, you're still 15 foot in width.
right. But they could still high bolt those.
Right, but the width of this, hauling it up, that's gonna be. the-
Yeah,
you
it's,
know,
Wide load
Most
permit
stuff is
for it.
maybe 10
Yeah.
in width, you know, maybe, you know, you're.
So
talking-
now we're talking about bringing it over to the beach and dragging it up to
No,
coastal
no, no,
beach.
no, that
Can't
isn't
do
gonna
that.
happen anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of catch-22.
right, and it looks like it wouldn't fit in the boathouse.
No.
No, yeah.
It's what there now.
Yes.
I'm,
Of all the sins in Falmouth, this isn't the worst.
Yeah, but you can't keep perpetuating them.
well,
No, I understand, but
we don't do this anymore either, but
Yeah.
this structure has existed for X amount of years. They are,
Well, I guess you're better off on a mooring than dragging it across that beach, because I don't see how you're gonna get it up there.
would you?
yeah, this would be something you'd have to float somewhere,
Right,
and it'd have to
Crane.
be taken by a crane
Yep.
and just, my fear is that you'd substantially alter the construction of a float, just to get it movable. So I didn't have an issue with it being on a mooring to begin with, so that's how I feel about it.
Okay.
So if I
I
could,
mean, I agree with Mary, but especially after this winter. But, having said that, I think we're taking a chance that the thing gets hauled up onto the beach somehow. Because I imagine you put a crane down there and all that, or you drag it around somewhere, and then you get a crane, and they're gonna lift it off of it, and now they gotta store it somewhere. So
Yeah, I think if that's the
alternative.
the
might
MO,
end up-
there's a higher likelihood of damage that way over time than,
So
It's not-
just get the mooring number.
yeah,
Yep.
it's
Okay.
not great.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
that'd be Russell's motion, Michael's second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I-
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Where's mine?
Next is 221 Lake Shore Drive.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one with the driveway in the front yard.
Oh, it's right here. I'm like, where is my plan? Finding the vegetation being removed in the A zone is ornamental.
That is true.
And they are restoring it somewhere else, so they're not gonna put the ornamentals down, so. That was the staff's only concern, was they were removing the, vegetation in the A zone. It was all ornamental, so they're gonna take that volume and replace it with natives closer into the buffer towards Jenkins Pond. And they are moving that structure actually closer to the road than the existing structure.
Yep. That's something to-
And I don't believe there's any other special conditions other than the normal ones you put in.
But for the record, I'd like to thank Tim because of the concerned neighbors, and he took the time to at least, it's not our purview, but he was gracious enough to explain to the
Driveway
neighbors,
going
Yeah.
over the
Over
thing.
the-
which was, I thought was very nice of him.
It was.
He didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to get that on the record.
yeah.
Thank you. I think it helped them out a little bit too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the
Their concerns.
anxiety.
Yeah,
So,
clearly.
with all that
I'm gonna make a
information,
motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
so that would be Russell's motion. And it's a toss-up, Susan, whether you want Michael's or Mary's. That's up to you when you review the tape.
I defer to Mary, it sounded more
Motion
predictable.
to figure it out.
Susan, while she's in-
I And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, we got to call for the vote on the other one first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
that was Russell's motion, Mary's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Night, Sam.
Susan's
Thank you,
on her
Sam.
vacation, right?